Hello, and welcome back to Through the Trapdoor. I'm Katie.
And I'm Emily.
And this is our podcast where we read you Harry Potter fanfiction.
Guys, guess what?
What?
We got a fan email!
I can't believe it!
I'm so excited. I saw it and I had to read it 3 times before I realized it was a real email from an actual person.
I know. And then you send me the screenshot because I was at work and I legitimately screamed in the back room at work. Thank God I was in the back room.
Yeah.
And then I sent the screenshot to my husband and went, "Oh my God, look, a stranger!"
Amanda,
I love you.
you're now our favorite person.
Seriously, you really are. I have now also read 2 of the fan fictions from that author that you recommended to us.
But yeah, we're definitely going to read some of those. We might have to do a bonus episode of that.
Yeah, sometime soon-ish.
Yeah, otherwise it's going to be approximately another 20 weeks before you hear any of them.
Exactly. Because we started this and now we have to finish it.
Yes. And it's long.
Very long.
Today's episode is going to be particularly long because it's at least 16 pages of reading.
Yep. Which normally we do between 7 and 11.
Yes.
Summer. We have skipped some time.
Yes, we have.
All right. Oh, yeah, look at that. The rest of the year passed without much event. Lily rarely talked to the Marauders and flat out refused to talk to James, who didn't seem to care whether she talked to him or not. Melody and Lily still talked frequently, however, and Melody drove Lily crazy for the rest of the year, complaining that the Marauders were doing something without her. Lily rolled her eyes at this, but listened to her best friend nonetheless. The end of the year exams had Lily stressed out for weeks. Well, yeah, it's your owls.
Yes.
It's OWLs.
Mm-hmm.
And she did nothing but study 2 weeks prior to them and worried for a week after she had taken them. When the results came, however, she had no reason to be stressed, since she had come out top of her class, followed by James, Sirius, and Melody, who was still wholeheartedly refusing to admit that she had one intelligent bone in her body. Okay, if you are 4th in your year, you are clearly very smart.
Yes.
It's not easy to do that. It's very hard.
It's very difficult.
The ride home on the train seemed far too short, as it always did, and Lily was still having quite a fun time in her compartment with Matt, Susie, and Mimi, Melody popping in occasionally, and the Marauders several times, seeking refuge from the Slytherins they'd played practical jokes on, and the usual parade of students who ran up and down and said goodbye to every single person on the train, just because they could, when the train arrived at the station. Lily stepped back into the Muggle world with Mimi next to her, not anticipating the events of the summer that lay ahead of her.
Oh, goodness. What's going to happen?
I don't know. That was very ominous.
Yes.
Melody Caldwell and Sirius Black burst out of the barrier behind Lily Evans and Mimi Ramirez rather more conspicuously than they should have, but then it was Melody and Sirius. Lily and Mimi turned to say farewell. "Well, there goes another year," Melody said, dragging her trunk behind her, looking absolutely ridiculous with a head of bright pink hair. "2 more years and then we'll leave Hogwarts forever," she wailed. Lily laughed, but she was saddened at the same time. "It's okay, Melody," she assured her. "We'll be back next year, okay? Hold on to it while it lasts." "Hold on to it while it lasts?" a voice came. They all turned to see James and Remus Lupin, Peter Pettigrew all emerge. It was James who had spoken, and Lily rolled her eyes at that. "Why is it that you always hear the last few words of my conversation and feel the need to comment on them?"
She has a valid point.
I know, seriously. He always comes in right at the tail end of a conversation and just was like, "Hi." James shrugged I was just asking, he said, and Lily couldn't think of any smart remark to make, so she shrugged too and didn't say anything. Somewhere in the back of her mind, she realized that it was very uncharacteristic of him to give such a simple response, but the point was futile. At nearly the same instant, they spotted their families and hugged and kissed and promised to owl one another before running off to their parents, all excited, but still a little sad to be going home for the summer so soon. "And you still owe me 5 galleons," Remus shouted to Melody as they departed, and she could be heard responding with, "Damn!" Lily ran over to her parents, and she was surprised to see James heading in the same direction. As she focused on her parents, however, she saw why. They were talking to a woman who looked very much like James, who Lily concluded must be his mother. A feeling of dread settled in the pit of her stomach. Whatever they were talking about, they were getting far too friendly. She did not want her parents to suddenly make new best friends with James's parents and start inviting the Potters over. That would not be fun. That sounds exactly like what's gonna happen.
That sounds like what's gonna go on.
"Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad," she said, running up to them and waving, trying to ignore the fact that James was right there. "Lily," her mom said, and nearly crushed her in a hug. Lily choked out a laugh at the same time and had to repeat the performance of the hug with her dad. "Well, we'll call her Owl you then," Lily's mom said, waving goodbye to James's mother, who nodded and said, "Till then, dear," and waved back. "What? Owl her? About what?" Lily said, looking back and forth between her parents, alarmed. "Oh, that reminds me, Lily dear, we've been thinking about getting an owl for you. While we're here, why don't we stop by Diagon Alley and get you one?" "An owl? Really?" Lily asked, pleased and surprised. Her mom nodded. "Sure, why not?" she smiled. "So why were you talking to James's mother?" Lily demanded after smiling back. "James? Who's that, dear?" "That really annoying boy I keep writing you about," Lily replied, agitated. "Remember?" "Don't take that tone," Lily's mom quipped. "And yes, I do remember now. Well, his mother is really very nice, and she offered to do something for us, which is something else we need to talk to you about." "What?" Lily asked, curious yet slightly alarmed. If it involved anything remotely connected to James. "Well, near the end of the summer, your father and Petunia and I are going away for about a week to look at Petunia's university with her and get her settled in and all that, and you'll need a place to stay," her mother replied as they reached the car. "So you're not going to take your other 2 children with you?
Yeah.
Where are they staying?"
What are you doing with your other children that you have?
"Your other daughter and your other son."
Lily's 15.
She can be there unless it's the same week that Lily would have to also leave for school.
True.
That would be the only thing that makes sense.
Yes.
"I'll stay with Melody," Lily said, shrugging. "That was easy." "Well, once you get your owl, you'll have to owl her just to make sure," her mother said reasonably. "Oh, yeah," Lily said, nodding, lifting her trunk into the car's trunk with her father. "Yeah, I'll ask her, don't worry," Lily said, slamming the trunk closed, and then got in the car and looked out the window as they drove to Diagon Alley. "No!" Lily shrieked as she read the letter and her gray and white spotted owl had just given her. "No, no, no!" she said, stomping her feet to accentuate each word, despite the fact that she had woken up only just a moment ago and had been groggy. She was now wide awake. She threw the letter angrily on her bed and tossed some food and treats to her owl. tossed some food and some treat into her owl, Hera's, cage, before storming out of her room and stomping angrily down the stairs. Sounds like a 15-year-old.
Yes.
Mom! What? Came her mother's voice from the kitchen. Lily stomped into the kitchen to find her mom cleaning the counters and her sisters Daisy and Petunia sitting at the table. Her sisters fell silent as she entered the room. She had paid no attention to them. Mom, Melody's going on vacation all summer. Oh, don't whine, Lily. I'm not whining, Lily pouted, crossing her arms. I'm complaining. There's a difference.
True.
Lily's mom rolled her eyes. Where is she going? Isn't she always the one complaining that she never gets to go anywhere? Yes, Lily said, leaning against the counter. She is, but she said she has this rich uncle or something who came to visit them right after school let out, and he's taken an interest in her. So they're going to Venezuela for the summer.
Taken an interest.
I was just going to say,
in her.
That is creepy. That is a creepy rich uncle. Taken an interest in her? What does that mean? Lily threw up her hands. How am I supposed to know? Well, why don't you ask Mimi? And Lily felt stupid for not having thought of it before. Okay, she said, and bounced out of the kitchen, happy again. No! No, no, no! Lily yelled, no less furious than she had been upon receiving Melody's letter. There was a knock on her door, and Lily glared at it. What? She snapped. Lily, stop making so much noise. It was her mother. Lily stomped over and threw open the door, crossing her arms with a foul look on her face. Mimi can't come either, she said, as though it was her mother's fault. Well, don't blame me for it, her mother said, balancing a laundry basket on her right hip. Is there anybody else you can stay with? Lily shrugged. I don't know. Remus, maybe. Not Sirius, she said, shaking her head. I don't know Peter well enough to say, not Matt. He's going to camp somewhere. And Susie is too, I think. Well, ask Remus, and if that doesn't work, I have a solution. Lily had a horrible feeling that solution had to do with James's mother. She felt horribly embarrassed writing a letter to Remus asking to stay at his house, but she did anyways because she was desperate. She got an owl back 3 days later. He said no, he had to go visit his great aunt that week, or it's the full moon that week.
It's the full moon. He's going to be a werewolf.
So, dangerous.
Yes.
Desperately, and without letting her mom know, she wrote Susie to make sure she was going away to camp. She was, and Lily didn't have anywhere to stay. Mom, Lily said, shuffling into her parents' room. Remus said he's visiting his great aunt that week, and I don't have anywhere to stay. Her mother put the novel she was reading down and patted the bed next to her. Come here then, she said. Lily plopped down on the bed, dreading what was going to come next. Do you remember how we were talking to that woman at the train station? Her mom asked, picking at a piece of Lily's hair. James's mom, how could I forget? Lily replied, taking her hair back and twirling it around her own finger. Yes, well, we're talking about how you didn't have a place to stay for the summer, and she said she'd be more than happy to have you if you couldn't find anywhere else to stay.
Can we just talk about how creepy that is for a moment?
Yeah, this woman, you just met her at a train station.
She could be literally anybody.
And she's like, oh, I'll take her in. Like, I'm sorry.
We met 30 seconds ago. Also, why are you just, talking to this random lady about, oh, yes, our daughter that we're picking up from the train currently, she's not going to have anywhere to stay this summer?
Also, were you just like, oh, are you picking up your child from school? So where did they go? Oh, a boarding school in Scotland? You don't say. Like, how did you bring up the fact that you got a wizard kid? You could have been talking to a muggle.
Yeah.
Who knew nothing about wizards.
The whole thing is just very sketchy.
I'm sorry.
Sketchy.
I'm confused. We'll have to see where the story leads us.
Yes.
Da, da, da. Lily felt as though a rock had been dropped into her stomach. She got a pained look on her face. No, she whined. I hate James. Passing him in the hallways at school is bad enough. I am not spending a week of my summer at his house. Lily, her mother said sternly, he's a teenage boy. Give him a break. And you can tolerate him for just 1 week, can't you? At Christmas time, you two were getting along just fine, weren't you? Yes, but that was until Lily cut herself off. Lily cut herself off, blushing furiously, not wanting her mother to know what happened. Until he what? Her mother asked curiously. No. No? Oh, come on, Lily, what did he do? Nothing. He didn't do anything. I just don't like him, Lily lied. And horribly, too, because her cheeks were bright red. We'll be gone for 2 weeks. If you don't tell me, her mother threatened, smile on her face. You will not. Okay, fine. We won't. But I will tickle you to death if you don't tell me. Lily's mom seized her and began tickling her mercilessly. Lily shrieked and started laughing. She couldn't help it. She was infinitely ticklish. No, stop! Lily gasped between laughs. Stop, I'll tell you, she said, and her mother relented. She began, but didn't want to tell. She sighed and leaned back against the headboard. Her cheeks started to flush at the thought of it. She covered her face with her hand, and she said through them, He kissed me! At this, her mother started to laugh as though it was the funniest thing she'd ever heard in her life. Lily removed her hands from her face, which was still red, and glared at her mother. Stop laughing! It's not funny! Lily's mother controlled herself and looked at Lily, still smiling. You don't really hate him, she said, laughing again. Yes, I do, Lily said, slightly hurt that her mother wasn't taking her side. No, you don't, Lily. He just embarrassed you. That's all. How would you know if he embarrassed me or not? Lily crossed her arms and pouted. Her cheeks weren't flaming anymore, but they were still noticeably pink. Well, you're embarrassed right now, aren't you? Lily didn't have a response to that. She just glared at the wall. Her mom smiled and patted her daughter's shoulder, and that was the end of it. Lily knew even if she protested and begged to stay home or go wherever Dean was going, it wouldn't matter. Grr. Lily? Oh my God. Lily Evans? Lily turned around and saw a very familiar face, chocolate brown eyes that were looking at her eagerly. Lily, it's me, Carrie Wilder. Lily's mouth dropped open at the sight of her grade school friend. Carrie? She squealed, and they hugged. Lily saw Carrie several more times over the summer and even went out with her and some friends to the local swimming pool. She did a lot of things with her younger brother and told him all she could about Hogwarts. She received the occasional owl from Melody, which more often than not wasn't an owl, but a large tropical bird of some sort, and more frequent owls from Mimi and Susie. All too soon, she had burned up most of her summer and parts of her skin, and she had to go to James's house. Lily tugged at her zipper without success. Oh, come on, you stupid suitcase, just close! She yelled at her dark green luggage. Why she wasn't just using her trunk for school, she didn't know. Need some help? Came a voice from the door. Lily turned to see Dean standing in the doorway. Yes, come on and sit on this, would you? Lily said, and Dean complied happily. Lily finished zipping her suitcase with ease. Thank you, she said, and Dean smiled at her. So, are you going to another magical person's house? Dean asked. Yes, I am, Lily replied, looking around her room, making sure she had everything. A wizard's house, in fact. A wizard's house, in fact. She got on her knees and checked under her bed. From the 22nd to the 29th, she muttered to herself, feeling very annoyed with the thought. It was a little longer than that even, because her parents weren't picking her up until the 30th. So they're going to pick you up like 2 days before you have to leave for school?
Apparently.
Alright, I guess that's fine. Okay, let's go, Pipsqueak, Lily said, getting up. As she picked up her suitcase and her owl's empty cage, Hera had left a couple days ago. Lily figured she was in Venezuela or something and brought them downstairs. Dean slid down the banister past her. Dean! Lily yelled. But he hadn't crashed into the potted plants again, so she just rolled her eyes and let it go. Everyone assembled in the front hall, which was quite a feat considering there were 6 people and twice as much luggage. Even more than that, because Petunia had packed away for a whole year instead of just a week like everyone else. Okay, does everybody have everything? Lily's mom asked, and they all nodded. Okay, Lily, the Potters will be here to pick you up in a few minutes. Dean, the Martins are right outside. Daisy, we'll be dropping you off, so I guess this is goodbye then, she said, and hugged and kissed Dean and Lily before leaving with Daisy and Petunia.
You're not going to watch to make sure your children get picked up?
Also, why are all of your children going to different places, especially if Lily
is 15
and is not going right from this magical person's house to school? You're going to pick her up before she needs to leave for school. Why are you separating your 3 other children from each other?
I don't understand.
That's not how things work. It's not how babysitters work. You couldn't have a neighbor watch them?
Or like just check in every couple days?
Like, what? This is the 80s, and Lily is 15. She is old enough to watch those damn kids for a week.
Oh yeah, they wouldn't even thought twice about it. They would have just been like, we're going for a week, bye.
Like,
here's $50 for food.
Like, makes me angry. Okay. Don't be too much trouble, you two, Lily's father said and hugged them both before leaving himself. We won't, Dad, Lily cried after him. Well, Pipsqueak, I guess I'll be seeing you in a week then, Lily said to Dean. He nodded, and she hugged him and smoothed out his hair, laughing as he wriggled away. As he walked out the front door with his suitcase, Lily waved goodbye to him. She sighed as he drove off with the Martins and closed the door. She sat down on a small couch in the parlor, which was just off the entrance hall. After a few minutes, she got bored and began walking around the house. Making sure all of the doors and windows were locked, which, of course, they were, she plopped down on the couch and waited, both dreading and anticipating their arrival, whoever they would be. Come to think of it, Lily wasn't exactly sure who was picking her up. All she knew was that someone would be to take her to James's house. She was dreading it for obvious reasons, but she was also reasonably excited. She had never been to a magical household before and didn't have any idea what to expect. Lily glanced at her watch. It had been 20 minutes since her brother had left. Annoyed, she got up and opened the front door. But there weren't any cars on the street. She frowned and then shut the door again. Suddenly, there was a large crash in the living room. Lily jumped and ran down the hallway to the living room where she found James Potter sprawled on the floor, a lamp next to him. Before she could open her mouth and yell at him, a voice squeaked from somewhere behind James near the fireplace, which caused Lily to jump a foot into the air. Oh, it's a house elf.
Mm-hmm.
Master James, a squeaky voice. The ugly little creature, with ears that seemed far too big for its head, ran out of the fireplace and over to James, helping him up. Pinky, James said, annoyed, frowning at the ugly little creature. I thought I told you to stay home. Pinky is very sorry, but she is thinking, Master James, oh, what if something happened to you and you was needing me? And Pinky is wanting to be here, sir, to help her master when he's traveling. James, noticing Lily, who was watching this display with some degree of amusement, suddenly went quite pink in the face. Pinky, go home. I'm not in need of your assistance. Go help Penny scrub the floors. Yes, sir, Pinky said, bowing, and with a sharp crack she disappeared. Lily looked with raised eyebrows at James, who was rather embarrassed. What was that? Lily asked. House elf, James mumbled, righting the lamp he had knocked over. Do you have your stuff? Yeah, in the front hall. I'll go get it, Lily said, and turned to walk away, very disappointed to hear James following her. She picked up her suitcase, and James snatched Harris Cage up before Lily could protest. Then they walked back into the living room silently. Lily looked at James questioningly once they returned, feeling quite awkward. James cleared his throat. Ever used flu powder before? Lily shook her head and James nodded. Taking a little bag filled with powder out of his pocket, he threw some onto the fire that had sprung up upon his entry into the house. Step in and yell out your destination. Try not to close your eyes because you need to see where you're going. When you see me, step out. Got it? Lily didn't really get it, but she nodded anyways. Let me take your suitcase, James offered. It's kind of confusing when you travel for the first time and you probably wouldn't be able to hold on to it. Lily felt a bubble of protest raise up in her throat, but she knew now was not the time to be stupid, because unfortunately she felt that James was right and handed over her suitcase. My house is called Potter's Cottage. You just yell it out once you stepped into the fire. I'll go first so you can see. Lily nodded and watched him step into the fire, cringing as he did so, but he wasn't burned, and with amazement she watched him call out Potter's Cottage and disappear. For not the first time in the last 5 years, she was amazed by the differences between Muggle and wizard life, but didn't allow herself more time to think about it because she was sure the effects of the flu powder would not last long. She stepped in, her heart fluttering horribly, but the flames didn't burn her, and she sighed with relief. But then wished she hadn't, because she had gotten ashes lodged into her throat, and her eyes were tearing, and she could barely call out Potter's Cottage. But when she did call it out, she wished she hadn't, because it felt like the floor had been yanked out from under her. Different homes and pubs and even Diagon Alley flashed past her, and all the time she was coughing and sputtering and trying desperately to keep her poor eyes open. Then, suddenly, she saw a flash of black hair and tried to step out but lost her balance and smacked into something, and couldn't quite tell where she was or what she was doing until a hand came out of nowhere and yanked her right side up. Her mind cleared with this yank, too, and all she had to do was cough several times and wipe her eyes before returning back to her normal state. Lily blinked and looked around, first to see James standing there, brushing some soot off his robes, and then to see a beautifully furnished living room overlooking some particularly spectacular gardens. Potter's Cottage, huh? Lily asked, taking a look around the rather large room. Doesn't look very much like a cottage. James shrugged and smiled, but they didn't get a chance to say any more at that moment. James's mom came rushing in from the kitchen. "Oh, Lily," she said, as excited to see her as if they'd known each other for years. "It's so good to have a guest," she said, and taking Lily quite by surprise, she scooped her up into a hug. "James, why don't you go get her settled in her room? I've got a snack for you when you're done. Unpacking, of course. If you're hungry, you can eat first. Oh, but I do realize that traveling by Floo powder isn't really a horribly long journey, is it? But nonetheless, what do you like to do, Lily dear? That's a mom.
Yep.
That's a mom. Oh, unpack, I guess, Lily said, smiling at Mrs. Potter. Okay, well, James, you show her to her room, then I'll just be down here when you're ready. She beamed and left the room. James silently led her up the staircase, down a short hallway, and then up another staircase. Both staircases were carpeted in plush gold color, and she was impressed by the artwork that hung on the walls, along with the solid oak doors lining the hallways. At the top of the second staircase, she saw through two glass doors what looked like an indoor greenhouse or a small park. She saw plants, a fountain, benches, and from what she could see of the ceiling, it was glass too, and you could see straight out into the sky. Oh, wow, James, Lily breathed, overtaken by the beauty. He didn't say anything, but she saw his ears go red. Come on, he said, this way. He led her off to the left, up yet another staircase, and at the end of the hallway he saw a set of double doors, and wonder where they led to. But she didn't have to wonder after a minute. James was opening them for her. Lily gasped when she saw the room. It was absolutely gorgeous. It was decorated in all different shades of Lily's favorite color, green. Oh, James, she said almost breathlessly, it's so beautiful. James sighed, and Lily suspected that if she hadn't been looking at his face, she would have seen him roll his eyes, but she decided to ignore it. She walked over to the bed and touched the covers lightly. Were they made of silk? She was jerked back down to earth by the sudden sound of James's voice. This is the closet, he said, opening the door, which opened into a walk-in closet. That's the dresser, he said, pointing to the chest of drawers pushed against the wall. He walked midway across the room and pulled on the cord and opened the curtains to reveal a set of French doors leading onto a balcony. Balcony, he said simply, and then walked over to the corner of the room and opened another door. Bathroom. Lily peeked into the bathroom, which was decorated in rosy colors, and she smiled. It was beautiful too, of course. She walked over to the French doors and opened one of them. Walking out onto the balcony, it was hot out, but the breeze was refreshing, and she admired the gardens below her with a sigh of appreciation. She felt eyes on her and turned back around to see James standing rather awkwardly at the French doors, staring at her. You can find your way back to the kitchen, can't you? James said, looking at her rather softly. Lily faltered, yeah? James nodded and then turned away. See you, he muttered before walking off. Lily turned back around and bit her lip, wanting to say something to stop the awkwardness. This would not be a fun week if they couldn't at least be humans to each other. James, this is ridiculous, she called, jogging back through the French doors. James stood, frozen, more than halfway across the room, and Lily froze herself. What's ridiculous? He asked coldly. James, you know what I'm talking about. What do you want me to do about it? Lily paused for a moment, but never once did she take her eyes off his face. She couldn't think of anything to say. In case you don't remember, you were the one that slapped me, James said finally. Lily finally tore her eyes away from his face and stared down at the ground. I know, she said softly, unable to think of anything else. So why is it ridiculous? James asked. You're the one who started it. Lily opened her mouth to argue back, but the comment was just too childish, so she closed it again. James shook his head, breaking the semi-trance they had both been in. He turned and began to walk again, and Lily felt her feet carry her across the room. James, please, she said, grabbing his arm and turning him towards her. But she couldn't finish because quite suddenly His lips were on hers, and her head was spinning quite wonderfully. She lost herself after a moment and let her arms creep up to his shoulders, kissing him back and letting him slip his arms around her waist. And she felt quite detached from herself, as if she were floating instead of standing, and presently she became acutely aware of everything having to do with James. The way he smiled, the way he kissed, the way his hand put slight pressure on her back while the other one stroked her cheek lightly, and the moment lasted an eternity, or so it seemed. And then he pulled away slightly, not too much. Their lips were still touching, and Lily moaned softly. And that feeling of half torture, half pleasure lasted an eternity too. James pulled her closer and kissed her more deeply, and Lily's head was spinning more crazily than ever, and she couldn't quite remember where she was or what she was doing, but it didn't matter. Nothing else really mattered except that she was kissing James.
Da, da, da.
That got real spicy real quick.
Yeah.
It was just all of a sudden it was spicy.
All of a sudden, they're just making out.
Like, dang! He pulled away, fully this time, and they both had their eyes closed, breathing hard and their hearts pounding rapidly. Lily's head was still floating up in the clouds somewhere, and it only started to drift down when James started to move his head back towards hers for another kiss. But then gravity kicked in, and Lily's senses returned to her just as his lips started to brush hers, and she pushed him away, disentangling herself from the embrace, and confused and slightly hurt, she slapped him across the face, grounding both of them once and for all. Why?
Why is she slapping him? Like, just push away and be like, it's enough for now.
Lily Evans, make up your mind!
Agreed.
James yelled. Agreed, James. Agreed. And she could hardly blame the poor boy, but at the same time, he had kissed her, and you kissed him back.
Yeah. It's not like he kissed you and you're like, no, don't kiss me. You were kissing him back.
Like, full on kissing him back.
Yeah.
It was spicy. Lily was still breathing hard, and she looked at him with confusion in her deep green eyes. All I wanted was for us to maybe be friends. Why'd you have to go and kiss me? She cried. I don't know, James yelled, just as confused as she was. You just ruined it all, Lily fumed. I haven't screwed things up any worse than you have.
Fair.
Lily stomped her foot, but didn't have anything to throw at him. It's your fault. Why can't you just stop kissing me? Because you're very kissable, Lily.
Obviously.
Come on. Well, maybe I'd have an easier time if you'd stop kissing me back.
Valid point.
Lily didn't have anything to say, so she just turned and ran out onto the balcony, slamming the French doors behind her. James followed suit, but he ran in the opposite direction, out of the bedroom and slamming that door behind him. I hate him! Lily yelled from the balcony, crossing her arms and fuming, glaring at the happy little birds that flitted from tree to tree below her, her mind still reeling from stupid boys and stupid vacation and stupid kissing. After calming herself down a bit, Lily went downstairs and chatted with James's mom, who gave her a snack and a tour of the whole house. The house had nearly 50 rooms, which included 10 bedrooms and nearly as many bathrooms, a living room, a kitchen, dining room, ballroom, private study. James's dad just disappears in there for hours at a time. The indoor gardens, the library, the trophy room. We're some of the last remaining descendants of Godric Gryffindor, you know. And no, Lily hadn't known. The indoor gymnasium with multiple purposes, several beautifully furnished tower rooms that reminded Lily of the Ravenclaw common room, the astronomy room with star charts and several fine telescopes, and that was just the inside of the house. Outside were more beautiful gardens, a large hedge maze, a Quidditch pitch, and stables, which held not only horses but more exotic animals such as several fine hippogriffs. Miss Potter informed Lily that they had once had a unicorn, but it was too sad being held in captivity, so they let it go, and now they sometimes see unicorns roaming the property. I feel like a unicorn would be super sad in captivity.
Yes. Agreed.
I feel like that's a animal that must roam free.
Yes.
She also added, though she noted it was her personal observation, that the unicorns somehow always appear when people are falling in love. You know, I saw the unicorns for the first time when I kissed James's father, she said, winking at Lily, and they both giggled. Lily wondered in the back of her mind if she had seen a unicorn while she was there.
You don't want to fall in love with James. I mean, you do, but like...
You do, but you don't. Like, mentally you don't. Clearly you do. Especially if you're subconsciously wondering if there was a unicorn sighting. Lily spent the rest of her day unpacking and walking around the most unsuitably named Potter's Cottage. Her favorite part, by far, was the indoor gardens. It had everything from palm trees to cactus plants, and some of her favorites in between were cherry blossom trees and towering evergreens. Never before has she encountered a place this magical outside of Hogwarts, with possible exceptions being Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley.
You just listed the 4 places that you've been in the magical world.
Right. So...
Not a very convincing list.
Yeah, it's really not. But okay. There were sparkling, shining, and glowing fairies in part of the gardens that didn't seem to notice Lily walking among them. In one part of the gardens, Lily spotted a beehive high up in a tree and hurried away from it, being careful not to go near it again. She hated bees. Everyone hates bees but also loves them.
Yes.
I have a very love-hate relationship with bees. Like, stay away from me, but keep living.
Yes.
That's how I feel about them. Other than the bees, however, the rest of the animals were quite pleasant. Little jewel-like hummingbirds fluttered all around, and all kinds of birds, exotic and normal, could be seen flying around as well. She spotted several sleeping owls in some evergreen trees and wondered if they were ever used to deliver the Potter's mail at all. So all of this is in their indoor gardens.
I don't know. Maybe.
That's how it feels.
That's kind of what it's sounding like.
But also, that would be the perfect place to let your owls live.
Yes.
In your indoor gardens.
Yep.
Though all the parts of the gardens were beautiful, she didn't especially like the desert area or the area with the bees. One of the best spots was the clearing in the middle of a grove of particularly fine evergreens. She laid down on the plush carpet of grass and stared straight up at the sky. The ceiling, which was made of glass, was so clear that it really didn't seem to be there at all.
So they are inside.
Yes. So you were staring at the sky if it's a glass ceiling.
Yes.
Unless it's a fake ceiling like the Great Hall that mirrors the outside sky.
I think this is supposed to be glass, though.
So you were staring up at the sky through a window.
Yes.
Another lovely area was where all the cherry blossom trees were. As she was walking through a row of them, a hummingbird came by, picking one of the blossoms off and giving it to her. Lily was so pleased she didn't know what to do. But she didn't have any time to say anything before the hummingbird was gone again. Smiling, she tucked it into her hair and gone on walking, hardly noticing the scenery had changed. Magical hummingbird.
Yes.
Magical hummingbird. I want one.
Me too.
Okay, cool. We're on the same page. She found herself standing in the shadow of a clump of palm trees, suddenly very warm, and realizing that she was standing on sand. A real beach stretched out before her. She slipped off her sandals and walked along the water, picking up seashells, admiring colorful starfish, and avoiding the crabs as they scuttled about. The water was crystal clear, and she could see colorful fish swimming lazily among the coral reef, where sea anemones shared their space with little red and white clownfish, and sponges swayed lazily, as though there were a breeze under the water. First of all, I want this place. You
Me
can
too.
go from a forest to the beach,
It sounds fantastic.
and I bet you won't get a sunburn.
Probably not.
Oh, that's ideal. The beach without a sunburn.
Yes.
That's how that's how I would be a beach person. The only reason I'm not is because of Sunburn City.
What? It's not like you're very pale and gingery at all.
I mean, I get a sunburn driving with my car window down. She sat on the beach for what seemed like forever, with her head on her knees, staring into the water, thinking. She had just begun to notice the sky was darkening when a little house elf scurried up to her to inform her that it was time for dinner. And it was at dinner that Lily Evans received one of the biggest shocks of her life. Sirius Black was in big trouble, of course. He was also as happy as he'd ever been, in only a way that a marauder could be after doing something completely dangerous and nearly illegal, and of course, against all of his mother's rules. He had bought a flying motorcycle.
Canon.
Very much so. He sat at the table, smiling stupidly, while his mother ranted and raved, yelling at a sound level that he imagined could outstrip a howler. You wipe that smile off your face, young man, or I will make sure you never have anything to smile about ever again. Do you hear me, Sirius? Sirius! Are you listening to me? Look at me, Sirius. Sirius Herbert!
That is not his middle name.
Oh my! Sirius Herbert Black! Would you look at me? Look at the yells. Herbert, no. Herbert, no.
His middle name is not Herbert.
No.
Stop it.
Ah, Mom, don't use that name, Sirius said, wincing at the sound of his middle name. Oh, you're listening now, are you? Now that I've mentioned your poor great-grandfather's name, you'll respect that name, Sirius, and you'll like it, or else. Oh, come off it, Mom. We're not even supposed to be talking about him anyways. Don't you want to get back to the motorcycle? Sirius, even though he hated his mother's yelling, would prefer her talk about his motorcycle instead of his great-grandfather Herbert. First, because conversations about great-grandfather Herbert were never fun and often involved talk about his death and the headless hunt, which Sirius had been forced to attend more times than he cared to count, and then forced to tell nearly headless Nick every detail thereof, and worst of all, Sirius was actually expected to participate in the conversation, and he much preferred to just sit and tuning out his mother's endless rant, and hearing about his motorcycle just proved that he'd actually gone out and bought it, and that it really finally was sitting there in the driveway, and that he could get on it and fly anywhere he wanted. Sirius, I really don't know what to do with you, his mother said, sighing. She had given up yelling. Her voice was rather hoarse. Uh-oh. It was okay when she was yelling and ranting and red in the face, but when she got quiet, well, that was when Sirius was in trouble. She was looking very tired now, and her face had gone all sad and deflated, just like it had when she was about to cry. And that was the worst punishment she could give him. He couldn't stand making his mom cry. Sirius, all I ask is that you just follow the rules and that is that too much to ask? Oh, Mom. No, Sirius, don't apologize. Don't even try. You're just You've just gone too far this time, too far. Just keep the bike, see if I care. I don't know what will become of you, Sirius. I really don't. I just don't know. She trailed off and left the kitchen with a handkerchief to her nose. Sirius sighed. Well, his mom was horribly mad at him, and he'd made her cry. He couldn't remember ever feeling worse. On the upside, however, whoever it was Lily expected James's father to be, it wasn't who he turned out to be. She knew that James was proud of him, and she knew that he had put a lot of pressure on James, but she never actually put two and two together, as smart as she actually was. Lily, upon sitting down at the dinner table that night, nearly dropped the bowl of vegetables when she realized just who James's father was. Felt like a complete dunderhead. The worst part was she had known all along. Of course, how could she have not have seen it? How stupid was she? His last name, after all, was Potter. But still, was Potter such an uncommon name? But how could Lily not have realized he looked just like him? Lily continued to beat herself up for this for years afterwards. How could she not have realized? How stupid was she? Because James's father was, of course, the Minister of Magic.
Alrighty then.
End of this episode.
Yeah. All right. Send us more emails, guys.
Please. We'll love you all. I want more people to love.
Yes.
And review us on everything.
Yes. Also do that.
Because I'll love you guys too. Okay, bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining us on our journey through the trap door.
Please leave us a review on Facebook or iTunes. It would literally mean the world to us.
It really would.
You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Through the Trapdoor 16 or on Twitter at The Trapdoor.
And please send us an email at throughthetrapdoor16@gmail.com with any story suggestions. And as always, join us again next Saturday as we travel through the trapdoor.